until we actually had these fragments of papyrus that were his, that we can see what he was using, and now we can read them just as easily as a scholar could read a Greek text from the 1st century. We know that he was lying. We know that it wasn't that at all. How do we know that these were the same ones that he had? They're glued to paper with pictures and drawings and so forth of a plat of the town of Kirtland and elevations of the Kirtland Temple, things like that. Okay, they were Joseph Smith's. They were in the possession of his family at the time that he died. Emma Smith, continued with them. She sold them later on. Some were probably, lost or discarded along the way, but a major portion of them, from two of the main scrolls that were mentioned by Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery contemporaneously, still exists. This book of Abraham scroll, his diary that he kept in Egypt, and the book of Joseph scroll that Oliver Cowdery was so impressed by, with the different pictures. So we have those things now, we know what they are. To me, that's a smoking gun. And a smoking gun is an awful lot better than trusting someone just because they have a bigger house than you do and they're the bishop. Okay. Yes?
Where are the papyri now?
They were turned over to, with great fanfare in 1967, to the LDS Church. And the LDS Church very proudly displayed them. I guess they were kind of caught off guard and couldn't keep it quiet. And that began a whole series of Hugh Nibley writing a lot of articles for 2 or 3 years, just full of quite a bit of baloney, trying to go and skirmish and spar for time, as he put it later on, while he tried to figure out what the things actually were. The church still has them, of course. They keep them in their archives and in their vault. Interestingly, we had never really had decent photographs of the papyri. All we had were just the reproductions that had appeared in the Improvement Era. No, it was the Ensign magazine, I think, at the time. No, Improvement Era. Improvement Era, Ensign's later. It was the Improvement Era magazine in 1967 and 68, where they showed some pictures of these, and of course those are run through halftone screens, and their detail isn't that great and so forth. You could miss a little bit of it. To do these reconstructions, we had to go ahead and look at the microscopic fibers from the papyrus and match them up where they'd been cut apart and put them all on the same scale and so forth. So we needed some really excellent high-quality photographs. While I was working on the text of this, I was conversing with a very, very nice man named Wes Walters, who was a minister back in Missouri, who helped me with the computer work and arranging these things in the right size, because we didn't have computers to do that with so much per se back then, as we had copiers that had computer chips that he could make different sizes in order to mate them and to play with the tones and the texture to go and get them to match. And once we could find 2 sections of photographs where the things lined up, we had to get them in the same scale and put them together in order to create those composite photographs. Well, as far as the photographs themselves, we had to have good quality photographs to work with, right? I went to BYU, up to the 4th floor, special collections, went over to the desk and I said, do you have any of the negatives for these pictures that were taken for the Improvement Era magazine in 1967? And they said, yeah, let me take a look. And came back with a shoebox. Yeah, you go ahead and take a look at these. And I came out, and here were these beautiful 5x7 negatives, taken, in exquisite detail. You could count the flea on a flea on a flea on the photographs. And I said, could I get some prints of these made? Oh, sure, it'd be about $1 a piece. So I had prints of the whole thing made, and that's the first time that anyone ever got good photographs of these to be able to work with. So we used them to make those composites and those murals that the Mormons like, but they just don't like the conclusions drawn from them. Okay. Yes?
The originals that the church has in their archives, are scholars ever allowed access to those?
Oh, I doubt it very much. The question was whether...
I can't hear.
The question was whether scholars are ever allowed access to the original papyri. I doubt it very much. There would be no reason to. There would be no reason to. Hugh Nibley posed, I guess, with some at one time, or maybe they were photographs of them, probably photographs because they seemed a little large. But they're in a fragile state and they're being preserved. They were once owned by the prophet, and so they have value. But there's nothing remarkable or extraordinary about them, and I'm sure that the church realizes that no one's ever going to glean anything faith-promoting from them, so there's no reason for anyone to study them.
So why do they keep them?
Yeah.
Because they're sacred.
Chuck, regarding the facsimile one, the lion couch scene with Osiris and Anubis, I ran across a video on YouTube recently, about a 10-minute thing done by a Mormon apologist, where he makes the charge that you have made a pretty grave mistake insofar that the person laying there on the altar could be a form of an Osiris in the making, so to speak. Would you respond to that?
Okay, you're talking about the backyard professor. Okay, I had a chance to look at that YouTube video today, and normally I don't seek out people that make critiques and so forth or try to respond to them, because it's pretty much a waste of time. Plus, any position that a Mormon takes to try to defend the Book of Abraham, some other Mormon is going to disagree with them in order to go and support their own theory about why it's a certain way, and so they cancel each other out. I don't have to do that. This one particular fellow, though, what's his name again?
Shirts. Yeah.
Gary
Terry.
Terry Shirts.
K.
Gary Shirts. Well, I felt really kind of flattered. 2 minutes into the, well, he starts out by talking about what a great day it is because there's finally proof that Egyptologists agree with Joseph Smith. Okay, and I think, oh, really? This should be good. I'm anxious to hear what he has to say. So he goes on, and he was funny to watch because I could have sworn, if I'd closed my eyes, I could have sworn it was Jesse Ventura giving us another conspiracy theory video about how the government flew missiles into the Pentagon disguised as airplanes. You know, it just sounded like Jesse Ventura doing a conspiracy theory video. Okay, well, he was going to go ahead and reveal this wonderful information here because, how did he put that? He says, the anti-Mormons' #1 hero, Charles Larson, is now destroyed. And I thought, wow, #1 hero. I had no idea. I didn't even know that there'd been an election. Okay. I don't know who else was running. What an honor. So I decided to listen and see what he had to say. And he didn't say much. It appears that he was taking exception to my reconstruction of facsimile 1, which, by the way, was a professional reconstruction. I say professional reconstruction in that it was done utilizing every professional method to do so and based upon the input of professional Egyptologists. What we did was we took the actual photograph of the papyrus and we filtered out all of the papyrus background and strata so that we had only the inked portion. We then cut that apart where the thing had been glued onto the paper in fragments and little misaligned and so forth, and aligned them correctly, okay, so that everything lined up the way that it was. And we then looked at it to see, okay, using similar funerary texts, similar drawings, the knowledge of Egyptian mythology and so forth, would what the Egyptologists say should be there fit on this piece of paper? And it did. Everything fit exactly the way that it was lined up to be and exactly the way that it was described. Okay, it was a picture of the jackal-headed god Anubis preparing to embalm the severed body of Osiris, while Isis is lifting, rising above him as a falcon, and his bow is ascending. Okay, and they're about to go and procreate. So this is a common theme in Egyptian funerary mythology. Now, bear in mind that the Book of Breathings was composed around the 6th century BC and in use for about 200 or 300 years before it began altering some more, and it had grown out of previous texts from the Book of the Dead. There was a lot of flux at that time. And so there's some variation in the theme from where things were buried, the way that they were drawn, the way they were interpreted. Mr. Schertz, he pointed out that another Egyptologist was taking exception to my reconstruction.
Lanny Bell.
Lanny Bell, okay, yes, from Brown University. And he said that what Lanny Bell said is that I misidentified the body laying upon the bier in facsimile 1, that it is not Osiris, that it is actually the person for whom the scroll was written. Okay, which in this case, of course, since this is the breathing permit of the priest Hor, that it would be Hor, okay, Hor or Horus. Well, I knew that, and I think I said that in my book. The deceased that receives this prayer scroll actually becomes Osiris, or is animated in the way that Osiris does. That's why this scene of resurrection is put into the book. Okay, so while one Egyptologist could say this is Osiris laying upon the bier, and the other would say this is the deceased representing Osiris laying upon the bier, that's basically what the Egyptologist was saying. Okay. But, Mr. Schertz was just so excited about this because now Charles Larson has made a mistake. Charles Larson is destroyed. Well, the Egyptologist never did say that what Joseph Smith said was correct. Okay, and I think that I remarked earlier that this is not even, my description and what this other Egyptologist was saying, and some other Egyptologist might say disagreeing with him, is not a matter of comparing apples and oranges. Okay, this is a matter of comparing Macintoshes and Granny Smiths. Okay, it's the same thing. Whereas you get to what Joseph Smith said it was, Abraham laying upon an altar about to be sacrificed. We're not looking at apples and oranges here either, we're looking at apples and rocks. Okay, Joseph Smith was wrong. 500% wrong in what this was. Okay, so I get that type of thing all the time, like this fellow, this backyard professor in the video. He's desperately trying to cling to something that's going to make the thing sound true to him, and he's so full of his missionary zeal that he just has to try to share this with anybody else who wants to listen to it too. So that's why he puts them on a video like that, and anyone with any sense of reason who looks at that or knows anything about what he's talking about can only feel embarrassed for him. Okay. Yes?
Did I understand you to say that the time that this Book of Breathings was put together was like 1,500 or 2,000 years difference from Abraham?
Yes. Yes. And that of course has been known. It's not what Joseph Smith said, but even Hugh Nibley freely admits that. We're not quite sure why Joseph Smith is still saying that it was Abraham's diary, but no, the Book of Breathings did not even exist in Abraham's day. Okay, the Book of the Dead was codified and going through development in the time of Abraham, but the Book of Breathings it's just a very short section of spells made for one particular purpose, and that's to teach the Mungu to breathe. There would be other spells that were written for other things too. There would be spells from the Book of Dead that could be enlarged into greater books and so forth. Things like a spell to go ahead and keep your tongue from falling out of your mouth, or whatever. So
remind us what the name of the book was and why it was named that.
Okay, it was called a Sheatan Sensen. Okay. Oh, you mean
book.
My book?
Yes.
Oh, okay. My book is called By His Own Hand Upon Papyrus, and I called it that because that is a direct quote from the preface to the Book of Abraham that was composed by Joseph Smith when the book was first began to be serialized in Times and Seasons in Nauvoo.